Hello, I'm Nathalie Dupree. Today on Nathalie Dupree Cooks for Family and Friends, I have a meal for you that's just full of home-cooked goodness. One of my staff called it Thanks, Mom. I'll start with sweet Italian sausage and chicken stew, accompanied by a classic cauliflower mornay, okra and chilies, and green salad with garlic cheese toast. For dessert, there are double chocolate chip sandwich cookies filled with a chocolate ganache filling. Can't be beat. I don't know whether you would want to serve this fabulous sweet Italian sausage and chicken stew to your most favorite guests or to your family. It is good for either one. It's in the Simply Smart section of my book, and I really use it so much. First of all, let me read you the ingredients. 2 tablespoons of oil, a pound of sweet Italian sausage cut into 1-inch pieces, one 3-pound chicken cut up. Now, if you got pieces of chicken already cut up, you'd have to watch the size of your chicken, because usually 3 pounds of chicken cut up is a bigger piece of chicken than a chicken cut up. 1 onion chopped, 2 garlic cloves chopped, 3 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes with puree, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 2 heaping tablespoons of fennel or California anise bulb, and that's what this is, and that's real optional. You don't have to have this. And 1/2 to 1 tablespoon of fennel seed, a heaping teaspoon of marjoram, and a heaping tablespoon of rosemary, and then 1 teaspoon of red wine vinegar, and 10 ounces of rotini or your favorite pasta. Cook. Now, let me just show you how to go ahead and get these started. First of all, a scissors is really the easiest way to cut these sweet Italian sausages, and there are finally some wonderful scissors out on the market. This is a Henkel, but there's also a great Joyce Chen one. Now, you take your sausage, you put it in your pan and fry it, and meanwhile, while it's frying, you cut your chicken into 8 pieces. This is the fried sausage over here, just so that you can see it here in the cooked chicken, but I want to show you how to get to the chicken to this point. When you want to cut your chicken, you kind of have to remember that the chicken more or less is built the way that you are, and figure out where the bones are, because you never really have to cut through any bone except for that pulley bone. So take the chicken and put it and start cutting it. Now, I want to sort of do this in the air so you can see how it goes, but don't you get home and start cutting it in the air. Now, go ahead and cut like this here and push it back till it cracks and it snaps. See, you're not even cutting through the bone, and cut down here. Now, the reason that I said that when you bought chicken pieces, and you say if you bought 3 pounds of chicken pieces, what you wouldn't have probably is the backbone in there and some of these things that we're going to get rid of. Now go do the same thing on the other side. So your pieces would be bigger and it would take longer to cook your chicken. Snap here. You can go back. I just want to show you how to do this with the scissors now. Now you could also cut up the middle of that backbone and leave it attached to this leg. There we go. Now go back very quickly and look at what you want to do about your breast. And you want to cut here, right at the place, at the joint. Fiddle around and see where it cracks. Cut off your wing. And then cut up your backbone, just to get rid of it. Actually, I don't even have to do that. I'm probably not going to use the backbone in this particular dish. Might save it for a nice stock. Here goes that. And see, that's the only tough little place there is that wing where it attaches, and that's not always even so tough. And then you go back and you do the same thing with the other side. So you see, you're really not cutting through any bone. Can you see here that you're really not cutting through any bone? It just right, that one little wing bone there, piece right there. And other than that, there's not a great big struggle. Then go back and just cut right on through the center portion here of your chicken. Now, what I normally do is let me just put a piece of chicken in the pan to show you this. What I normally do is dry my chicken. Oh, and one more little thing. If you wanted to cut this, I don't know if you can see that fat right there in the bone. But what you would do is just cut right where that fat is, and that tells you where the bone is. It's like magic. See? So you're not really struggling. But what I normally do while I'm proceeding to cut the breast of the chicken just down the center like I was just doing is dry some of the dark pieces and put them into my hot fat while I'm working. So get that leg in there. And you always put it skin side down so that the skin will be the prettiest part. And get it in quickly and then turn it. And there you are. Cut down here and it's done. So that's really a simple thing to do. And let me just move all of this out of the way here. Here we go. And chop some onion for you quickly. Here's a whole onion. Cut it in half. Put the cut side away from you so you don't cry. Pull off the peel. Then you're just going to cut into the root like this. I love the sound of chicken singing in my kitchen. It's really just wonderful, and it smells so good in here. You just wouldn't believe it because we've already cooked this recipe a couple of times. Cut across and then down. Simple. And get that away from you so you don't cry. Get your garlic clove. I've been smashing them too hard lately with too much vengeance here. Just give it a little thwack and then go back. And you just chop into your garlic clove just the exactly same way. Now, fennel is also sold in the grocery store as California anise. I don't know who's messed this up. And by the way, at your home, in your perfect life, you would do just as I do. I have a clean knife and a clean board. I didn't use the contaminated board or the contaminated knife to chop up the next ingredient. That's what you want to be careful of with poultry. That's how people get sick, really. That's what's bad. Now, it's got a little root, a little stem in there, and you're going to have to pull that out somehow or the other. Just work around it. And if you want to cut it, get it down so it's a little flat for you. And you can use all of this if you want to. Cut it down so that it's flat, then cut into it like this, and then across. You got the idea there. You don't need this. It's just that I want to show you different things that you can do. And this prawn is wonderfully tasting, delicious kind of a thing. If you dry it, hang it up to dry, it's lovely to surround fish with when you put it on the grill. Now, chop your fresh herbs. This is some marjoram that's chopped. And this is some rosemary that you want chopped. Now, you've had your oil hot and your sausage cooking and browned, and you've removed it. You've added your chicken, skin side down. You brown it quickly on one side, like that. Then turn it and brown the second side. Just happen to have a whole bunch done here. I'm going to get these out of here just so that you don't see me adding the onion to the parts that aren't done. You go ahead and you add your onion and your garlic and your chili powder. And you cook it about 5 minutes. You just want the fragrance of that chili powder to flavor those onions and to flavor this oil that's going to all mush together. And then you stir in your crushed tomatoes with puree. That's a new kind of tomato that's on the market, crushed tomatoes with puree, and it has a lot more flavor than just the canned tomatoes used to. And then you have your cumin and your fennel. Toss it in here. Your marjoram and your rosemary and your red wine vinegar. And I don't know what that is. A little sugar to taste. Whenever you use tomato, you always just taste it because there's that acidy flavor, and you taste it and then add a little sugar if you need it. Now, you add your sausage and your chicken. You cover it. Gosh, this is so delicious. This is my favorite kind of meal, and I'm finding more and more that when I'm entertaining that this is the kind of meal that people just rave over because it's just got all these great flavors in there. Try not to get your sausage onto your other burner like I just did. There it goes. You're all so tidy at home there. Then you cover it, bring it to a boil, reduce the heat, cook it 35 to 45 minutes. Then you take out your chicken and boil down the sauce if you need to, briefly to thicken it, if it needs thickening. And then you return the chicken to the pan and you season it with salt and pepper and sugar. That's when you added that sugar if you thought it needed it. And stir it over your serve it over your cooked rotini. It's just so good. You're going to all rush to the grocery store now and get those ingredients and make it, I know. Now here's another little thing that I frequently use as a side dish. I also use it as starter. Sometimes I'll mix a little ham with it. Sometimes I serve it by itself. It's just a cauliflower mornay. The ingredients are 1 cauliflower, which is 1½ pounds, a half a cup of butter, a fourth of a cup of butter, excuse me, someone just made a motion to me, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 1/2 cups of milk, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 3/4 of a cup of grated cheddar cheese, and 1/3 of a cup of breadcrumbs. You preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then you cut off any thick or discolored parts of the cauliflower. And actually, there aren't any in this. In fact, it's so beautiful that I would probably just poach it with the green attached because it's so pretty, and that's lightly edible. People like it. Now, the trick at cooking cauliflower is that you need to get the stem done in the same amount of time as the flour. So you have to cut a deep X in the center here, and that enables it to cook faster. Then you place it stem side down in a great big pan of boiling water, bring it back to the boil, and boil until it's tender, about 15 minutes. When I microwave it all the time. If you microwave it, you just sprinkle it with a little water and cover it, and you microwave it till it's done, about 5 minutes, and then you just drain it well. And meanwhile, you've got a couple of tablespoons of butter over here cooking away, and you stir in your flour. That makes a roux. And then you add your milk. And if you cook your roux a few minutes more till the flour is cooked, and then add boiling milk, it'll make into a sauce faster. If you add cold milk, you have to stir it till it comes back to the boil. Here it is boiling. Then you remove it from the heat, and you stir in a little piece of Dijon mustard, and 1/2 a cup of the cheddar cheese, just 1/2 of the cup of the cheese. You're going to save the rest for later. And you stir it until it's smooth, and you season it to taste with salt and pepper. And you place your cauliflower, here it is, in your heat-proof serving dish. You have to wash the dishes, butter it first. Put the florets up, and then saute your breadcrumbs in 2 tablespoons of butter. Top the cauliflower with the sauce. Let me just get a towel here to hold on to that. There we go. Top it with the sauce. Add another 1/4 of a cup of cheddar cheese and the browned crumbs. I learned this at the London Cordon Bleu when I was studying there, and it's still one of my favorites. It is terrific. You know, it's also nice just as a supper by itself. When you're ready to serve it, you place it in the oven to heat it through. See, it's all already cooked. And lightly brown the cheese, just lightly, and melt it. It's just a really nice thing. As I said, I mix ham with it sometimes and serve it as a starter. Sometimes I'll throw a little shrimp in it. Sometimes I'll throw some herbs in it and serve it as a side. Mornay is a fancy French word for a cheese sauce. And now, here's something different you'd like to learn about. When Christopher Columbus arrived in America in 1492, he was looking for 2 things, gold and spices. But he didn't find much gold, at least not right away. But he did find peppers, the hot and sweet peppers that are native to Central and South America. No relation to the hard black peppercorns of Asia, our American capsicum peppers are cousins to the tomato, potato, eggplant, and tobacco. They're now enjoyed all over the world in a number of forms, from the dark, small, and fiery bonnet peppers to the sweet green and red bell hybrid peppers of California. At Epcot Center at Walt Disney World, near Orlando, Florida, Mickey showed me peppers are even grown here without soil. Peppers are temperamental plants. They do need just the right combination of temperature, light, and nutrients. Here, these can be supplied scientifically by a professional agricultural staff of horticulturists, plant nutritionists, and biotechnologists, with a little supervision from Mickey. The pepper seeds are started in this inert, reusable material made of spun mineral material. They're kept well fed with hydroponic solution after germination. The young plants are transferred to vertical column farms, 35 plants to a pipe, and tended in the greenhouse. Roots are misted frequently, and the water and nutrients collected and reused. Though we think of peppers as annual plants, they're really perennials. And you know, the green peppers turn red once they're ripe. By growing them under these near-ideal conditions, they can be picked fresh 365 days a year. The peppers are served in the nearby Mexican pavilion. Epcot chef Rick Pastina demonstrated ways to slice and dice peppers. First, remove the stem end, cut the pepper in half, and remove the seeds and white membrane. Cut each half with the skin side down, drawing the sharp edge of the knife across the cleaned inside of the pepper.
For nearly a century, LeCreuset's colorful French cookware has been a favorite in kitchens around the world. From its bold finishes and uncompromised quality to its easy-to-clean materials, the brand's range of iconic products are as easy to use as they are to love.
I cannot believe these double chocolate chip sandwich cookies filled with more chocolate. They are incredible. Now, ingredients: 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, 1 ounce of unsweetened chocolate, 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of packed light brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1½ teaspoons of vanilla, 1/4 cup of buttermilk or sour cream. You have to watch your calories. 1 egg, lightly beaten, 1/4 cup of chopped pecans or walnuts, 1/2 cup of semi-sweet mini chips or chunks, whatever moves you. So there we are. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees before you get started. And then over low heat or in the microwave, melt your unsweetened chocolate in your butter and pour it in your mixer bowl. And then you beat in your light brown sugar, and your granulated sugar. It's all in there together. And your egg, and then add your egg and your vanilla. Here we are. That's pretty good. And then mix your flour, your baking powder, your baking soda, and your salt, and your buttermilk. You're going to have to add your buttermilk to this too. Here we go. This is so good, you just won't believe it. And add your flour. You can fold it in. I left something out there. I don't know what that is. We'll just get it all in there. You can fold it in carefully if you'd like. I'm just going to do this. And now add to the mixture your chopped walnuts and your pecans. This is just a little large of a mixture for this small quantity that goes so far. So there it is. It's all mixed. I'm not going to struggle to get it out of there for you. You trust me that somebody will eat it. Now, go ahead, and you have your mini chocolate chips added as well. Now go ahead and grease some cookie sheets. I use the spray stuff, but you can just brush the melted shortening onto it. And drop the batter by teaspoons onto the sheet. Now, you really won't like this. The batter is just so good, you could eat it by yourself. You don't even have to bake it. Leave about 2 inches between each cookie. And then there are several different things that you can do to them. I'm going to show you. Well, there's nothing to do but to lick that. If you weren't watching, that would be in my mouth. Now, let me just show you. You can bake them in big clumps like this, just the way they were dropped. Or you can spray the bottom of a measuring cup or something, a heavy glass, and dip it into some sugar, and then just take that and lightly, just very ever so lightly, press it like that on the cookie. Now, this would be if it was a teaspoon. You could make a bigger one if you wanted a tablespoon size one. I like the big ones, but anyway, it's up to you. Now, you bake it 8 to 10 minutes, but don't let the edges brown because it makes it a little bit bitter. And if you have that larger cookie I mentioned, drop it by tablespoons and bake it 12 to 15 minutes. You have to bake it a little bit longer. And then you transfer it to a baking rack to cool it. Now, we're going to fill this with what we call a ganache, which is just another word, fancy French word for a sheerly decadent filling. Icing, we would call it. 3/4 cup of semi-sweet or milk chocolate chips, 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon of heavy cream. It's a funny measure. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Then you beat together your chocolate and your butter all together. And I don't think you need to see me do that. And then you slowly whisk in the cream. Now, how bad could this be, right? This has been sitting here, so it's not still warm, so it's going to take a minute to kind of work it in. This is the worst that'll ever happen to you. And, of course, you might have to force yourself to eat around the edges. Now you take it, you let it stand at room temperature for about half an hour or more. And then go ahead and take the cookies. You turn half of your cookies upside down, see, so that you can fill them. And you, the piece of wax paper is the best thing to put it on so that it doesn't get goopy. You all know that I'm just so immaculate in my kitchen that I wouldn't want you to get it goopy. And then you spread a tablespoon of the filling on each. Now, if you want to be precise, you can go ahead and take the spreader or spread it. Or what you can do is quickly cover it with the remaining cookie and just press it right, this one's right side up. Press it gently, and that spreads the filling all the way to the edges. I hope you can see that that just gushes right there. And then you let it stand at room temperature for a few minutes, and then you chill it until it's set if you want to, because obviously with all this butter and cream in it, it would melt if you left it out in a warm room. It's so good, and I have frozen those cookies. Now let me tell you about the green salad with garlic cheese toast. This is a simple little thing to do. The hardest part about it is making the toast, but homemade toast is so terrific that I hope you'll do it. Really, it's kind of a homemade crouton toast. Your ingredients are 1 small head of Boston or Bibb lettuce, a pretty light green lettuce. You can even use that red leaf lettuce. A bunch of watercress, washed, dried, or torn. And then a cup of some other greens. This is arugula, which I love it. It has almost a nutty flavor to it. But it's pretty expensive. It's sold in the herb section of the grocery store. And when I had my restaurant years ago in Social Circle, the one that's closed, I used to grow my own nasturtiums, and I would just pick the nasturtium leaves, just be sure they're edible, and toss them in the salad as well. And so put all that in there. You break up your arugula and you break up your greens. And I am increasingly just feeling that I can wash my lettuce and break it ahead of time. Oh, and the other ingredients are 4 slices of bread and 1/4 to 1/2 cup of olive oil, and then some garlic clove or 2 peeled, and 1/2 cup of Montrachet or other soft goat cheese or soft feta, not all of which is made with goat cheese, with goat milk, or camembert or boursin, a couple of tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, 1/2 cup of olive oil, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, what you do is you mix your Boston or your Bibb lettuce, your watercress, and your other greens all together. I told you arugula, nasturtium, whatever you've got. I wash them ahead of time. I dry them real well. I use a salad spinner and then maybe damp the dry paper towel. And I throw them in a plastic bag, a large plastic bag, and I just marked my salad green plastic bag. I reuse it. And you keep it refrigerated until you need it. Then, in the meanwhile, you preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and you brush your bread with olive oil. I'll tell you what, baked bread, you have to make your own toast in the oven. If you have time, Saturday or Sunday morning, and brush it with butter, bake it in the oven, it is terrific. But this is brushed with olive oil, and you pop it in the oven and bake it for about 5 minutes until it's golden brown. Turn it over if you need to. And while it's still warm, you rub it with the peeled garlic cloves, just like that. And then cut your bread. You can do this before or after. You cut it into, some pretty triangles if you can, just like that. There we go. And get a good bread knife. This is a Henkel bread knife, and it sure is nice. You can cut off the crust if you are so inclined, although I like the crust, so I leave them on. And you can spread them with a soft cheese. This is a goat cheese. And then over here, I have some of that cow's milk feta with all sorts of goodies in it. And I just think that's a little pretty. It depends on whether you want to add a little spicy, peppery thing to it, what cheese you use, or the boursin you would have herbs or pepper. So it just depends on your flavoring and what you're serving with the rest of the meal. Now you make your vinaigrette. Vinaigrettes are simple things to do. You whisk together the Dijon mustard and the red wine vinegar. You should always start with your vinegar because that helps helps you make an emulsion if you want an emulsion. In other words, if you want it to kind of look all together, or a semi-emulsion. And then you just whisk in your oil. And you can use olive oil or any of your favorite oils. Now taste it, and if it's too oily, that didn't get emulsified. If it's too oily, what you would do is you would add a little salt, as much salt as the oil would take. And if it still tasted oily, then you would add a little pinch of sugar, and of course you always add your pepper. And then when you're ready to serve, just make that ahead of time. You just toss your greens with your vinaigrette and put them in the serving bowl. Or they're awfully pretty, divided among plates, and just topped with those pretty little cheese toasts. It's a really nice way to serve a special salad. And now the okra and chilies. This is an off-the-wall recipe that I love. When you go to the grocery store, you can find this chili oil. It's really an oriental, in the oriental section as a chili oil. And you get 4 tablespoons of the chili oil, 2 tablespoons of chopped chili pepper, any one of your favorite fresh chili peppers, an onion chopped, a pound of okra sliced, a half a cup of peanuts chopped. Heat your chili oil and add your pepper and your chopped okra. Now, it's always a good idea if you work with rubber gloves when you're chopping peppers. But go ahead and just slice down your pepper, remove your seeds. Pretend that I removed those. I don't want to get my hands all hot. And chop or slice, or actually you want to chop these. Walk your knife right around it until it's finely chopped. Then slice your okra, tip it and tail it, slice it. Cook the onions briefly, and then add the okra. Just throw it in there and cover it. I cover it with aluminum foil. I'll just show you how I do that because it's kind of cattywampus. See, all this stuff would be in there. You just cook it, cover it, cook it 5 minutes, and then when it's all done, you add your chopped peanuts and your salt and pepper to taste, and heat it through. Serve it hot. It is, it's really good, and it's really different. This meal is centered around the home and what some might call comfort food, but it's been updated with sweet Italian sausage and chicken stew that freezes, cauliflower mornay, okra and chili, green salad with garlic cheese toast, and double chocolate chip sandwich cookies with chocolate ganache filling that also freeze. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye.